Mike Welsh.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Section 5, the action section. Item A was resolution 4-2021 establishing short-term employment. Dr. Denise Wickham.
And I am going to turn this over to Dr. Viss, who's been working on this one.
Hello, good evening. What we have here is due to distance learning, we realized that we need some technology support at the school site. So we have an action item here to hire 12 short-term technology specialist ones to work with our current technology specialist ones at the school sites to help support teachers, substitutes, classified staff with distance learning.
All right,
The sooner that happens, the better I'll be. So I move to approve this resolution 4/2021 as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Davis. A motion by trustee Davis, a second by trustee Molina. Marilyn, please poll the board.
Virginia Moore.
Aye.
Victoria Rodriguez Ochoa.
Aye.
Brian De La Porte.
Aye.
Hugo Molina.
Aye.
Fay Lane.
Aye.
Lourdes Perez.
Aye.
Valley White.
Aye.
Betty Davis.
Aye.
Mike Welsh.
Aye, motion carries. So we move on to B, provisional internship or a PIP. Dr. Wickham, please.
Yes, good evening, Board of Trustees. Tonight I'm bringing forward several teaching positions that these teachers are needing provisional internship permits. They are in internship programs completing their credentials. You can see their names listed on the agenda there, and we do need approval to submit these to the state, to CTC, the Commission on Teacher Credentialing.
I so approve approving the PIPs.
Second.
We have a motion by trustee Davis, second by trustee Delaporte. Marilyn, please poll the board.
Virginia Moore.
Aye.
Victoria Rodriguez Ochoa.
Aye.
Brian De La Porte.
Aye.
Hugo Molina.
Aye.
Fay Lane.
Aye.
Lourdes Perez.
Aye.
Valley White.
Aye.
Betty Davis.
Aye.
Mike Welsh.
Aye, motion carries. Moving on to C, variable term waiver. Dr. Wickham, please.
Variable term waivers are also very similar. They need to be reported to CTC. You can see that we have 3 speech and language pathologists that we're asking for variable term waivers. These are waivers for getting into various programs, and sometimes these programs are difficult to get into. They're filled up. They're very limited. We also have other waivers, for example, a waiver for career technical public service. That is the teacher who's actually replacing Randy Cerny for our police officer or criminal justice unit at Ceres High. We have other requirements for bilingual teacher for our dual language program, and our final teacher, Sarah Munoz, needing an EL authorization. So again, these individuals are listed, and we do need approval for the waivers tonight.
I move to variable term waivers.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, who was second?
Fay.
Faye. All right, Faye. We have a motion by trustee Delaporte, I believe, and a second by trustee Lane. Marilyn, please pull the board.
Virginia Moore.
Aye.
Victoria Rodriguez Ochoa.
Aye.
Brian De La Porte.
Aye.
Hugo Molina.
Aye.
Fay Lane.
Aye.
Lourdes Perez.
Aye.
Valley White.
Aye.
Betty Davis.
Aye.
Mike Welsh.
Aye, motion carries. Into D, resolution for developer fee justification study, level 1 developer fees. Dan Pangrazio, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Every 2 years, the State Allocation Board allows for an inflation adjustment to the developer 1 fees. And the recommended action by the SAB is to increase the fees to $4.08 per square foot for residential development, 66 cents per square foot for commercial. If adopted and approved, they would become effective on October 19th. And at this time, we recommend adoption of the resolution.
Questions of Dan?
I
Hearing
move to
none.
approve this resolution.
Second.
By trustee Davis, second by trustee Molina. Marilyn, please call the board.
Virginia Moore,
Aye.
Victoria Rodriguez Ochoa,
Aye.
Brian De La Porte,
Aye.
Hugo Molina,
Aye.
Fay Lane,
Aye.
Lourdes Perez.
Aye.
Sally White,
Aye.
Betty Davis,
Aye.
Mike Welsh.
Aye, motion carries. Going to E, consolidated application spring submission for state and federal funds. Dr. Amy Peterman.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. I have the annual consolidated application to bring to you tonight, asking for your approval so that we can expend state and federal funds. This is an annual application and is required to go before our parent committees of the District Advisory and District English Learner Advisory, which was done in May of earlier this year. And normally we bring this to you in June. The state actually released the template very late this year, and so that's why we're bringing it to you now. But nonetheless, we are asking that you approve the authorization so that we can expend those funds for our students.
I so move.
I'll second.
Let's see here. Okay, we have a motion by trustee Davis, second by trustee White. Marilyn, please pull the board.
Virginia Moore,
Aye.
Victoria Rodriguez Ochoa,
Aye.
Brian De La Porte,
Aye.
Hugo Molina,
Aye.
Fay Lane,
Aye.
Lourdes Perez.
Aye.
Sally White,
Aye.
Betty Davis,
Aye.
Mike Welsh.
Aye, motion carries. Scott, I have a request before we move on.
Yes.
Is it possible that the person speaking, like giving the, these items can be seen on the screen? Because I can't see the screen that's with everyone on it there. And I'd like to see, if possible, myself, the person who's presenting. Is that a possibility?
Is that better, the gallery view? Well, I think you control whether it's on gallery view or not. Is that correct? I'm looking for the tech.
The right-hand side, there's a speaker view that will pop up who's talking.
Look at the upper right.
Upper right.
Upper right.
Excuse me, is this gallery view?
Says what? I'm sorry.
Or it may say full screen and other options up there. Red
Full screen,
letters.
maybe that's- 1 second.
All lined up together.
Okay,
Or
so I have it on full screen. I have a little smaller version, but I can see you, Betty.
okay.
So there's a list of participants, chat, share screen, record, or
That's
Take
left.
actions.
That's on the left.
There should be at the upper right a thing that says speaker view or gallery view.
I can see everyone now. I see Amy and
It's
Okay.
also that we're not showing up with the yellow outline around us when we speak because we're all going to a central microphone system. So maybe what we can do is say your name when you first or second.
I think he said he can see us now.
I can see everyone now. I just couldn't see who was presenting, like when Amy just presented.
Okay.
I'd like her physically talking, so
Let's
on the
fix it.
screen. I
But
couldn't
now
see
you
it.
can. But now
Now
you
I
can.
Okay.
So we'll give it a shot here. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so moving to item F, resolution to address diversity, equality, or equity, and racism in the Series Unified School District. Dr.
Yes.
Siegel.
We presented this draft of this resolution to you at the last meeting in June. There was a request to make some changes and add a little more about policy in there. We did that. You can see the changes. Did that satisfy okay. So I will report to you that we did start already some of the work here in terms of meeting with students. Had a fantastic meeting with a group of students from Central Valley and a fantastic meeting with a group of students from Ceres High School. And our two board reps each were in those meetings as well. So I will let, if they have any comments to make, they can do so as well. It went so well with the students. They had so much to add to the conversation that we've scheduled additional meetings. And we may meet with them all year long. Just periodically. I think it would be a very helpful thing. And I actually feel like I was missing a voice for the last number of years as superintendent. I really appreciate what they had to say.
Can you provide us a brief summary of the conversation?
A brief one, yes. They identified, so I asked them two questions, and then had them go around. Every student got to speak, and then asked them the second question. The first question basically was to describe, and I'm just paraphrasing, it's not exactly the question, but describe any experiences you've had in the areas of seeing racism or diversity issues or any of that during your time in Ceres Unified School District or not in Ceres Unified School District, just what have you experienced? That didn't get the conversation going as much as the second question did, which was to ask them what suggestions do they have for their school site or the district in terms of addressing these issues. And that's where it got really rich. The first question was fine, but the second one, it got very, I was really impressed. I did not have as good a grasp on these issues by any means when I was in high school or college or after college as these students do today. I was just blown away. Some of the issues that got brought up, and I'll just kind of paraphrase, I can't remember offhand which site came up with which, but there was a lot of overlap. And ladies, I'd actually like to hear from you too, before I do that, do you have anything to add to that?
I would just like to say that I really appreciated you giving us a voice on this matter. It's a very important thing to recognize, and I can speak for, I'm pretty sure, all of the students that were in the meeting that we really appreciated you being concerned.
I know for a long time, a lot of students wanted to give their opinion and their input on what was going on in our schools, but they just never found a way to do so. And I feel like with that meeting, they were able to realize they had a voice and it was able to be heard, and they really appreciated it.
So believe me, I appreciated more, as much as you may have appreciated, I appreciated it. And Dr. Peterman was with me on the call as well. So some of the topics, issues that came up, suggestions were more training for staff and for students. Too often, small name calling things are going on our campuses and they're not addressed, and they need to get addressed. There's issues with people knowing how to talk about it. We need to do more training around that, which we're just starting, but there's clearly more work to do. Our curriculum needs to be looked at in terms of history, the versions of history we teach, or what gets emphasized in history, very Eurocentric. The idea of ethnic studies came up very strong in one of the schools. I can't remember which one. And both schools hit it, but one was very explicit on ethnic studies. The other was not as explicit, but going in the same direction. Really, I think shaping our thinking that we need to explore that ethnic studies, which is part of the resolution, but maybe even faster than is in the resolution. And the state's moving that way anyways, but it's certainly something our students are asking for. Our authors of the books that the students read do not reflect our students. To be very crass, they want to read more than just works written by old dead white men. And there was one other that was occurring to me that, our staff. They want to look at our staff and see that the staff reflects them. And that's an important point. And I don't reflect the students in this district. I just don't. And more of our administrators need to reflect the students, more of our teachers do. And we're working on that, but we need to redouble our efforts in that way. Did I hit anything you can think of that I left off?
No, I think that was good.
That was pretty comprehensive.
When we were meeting with you, we did mention like teaching kids in elementary school about diversity. And
Yeah, so students need more training and they need it early. They really emphasized not waiting till high school to do that. It needs to be done. A lot of times they use the term pear deck. I can't remember which school was using that term.
Oh, for the
student training.
Yeah.
But they mean it's like the anti-bullying training. We need to have some sort of anti-racism training essentially for students, and not in high school and junior high school only, all the way back into the early grades. Thank you for reminding me that. That was So I have a summary that when I report back, and as the resolution says, I will give you a summary, but that verbally is pretty much what would be in the summary.
Thank you.
I move to vote to pass the resolution as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Davis, second by trustee Perez. Marilyn, please pull the board.
Virginia Moore,
Aye.
Victoria Rodriguez Ochoa,
Aye.
Brian De La Porte,
Aye.
Hugo Molina,
Aye.
Fay Lane,
Aye.
Lourdes Perez,
Aye.
Sally White,
Aye.
Betty Davis,
Aye.
Mike Welsh.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, go to G. We're gonna have the new COVID-19 mitigation plan board policy, June 2020. Dr. Siegel, please.
Yes, these were brought to you at the last meeting in June as well. CSBA recommends these policies be adopted to cover some of the contingencies around COVID-19 that were not contemplated in board policies prior to this year.
I move to approve it as presented.
Second.
Okay, I'm not sure if that was Lourdes or Valley who did the second.
It was Perez.
I thought so. So we have a motion by trustee Davis, second by Perez. Marilyn, please poll the board.
Virginia Moore,
Aye.
Victoria Rodriguez Ochoa,
Aye.
Brian De La Porte,
Aye.
Hugo Molina,
Aye.
Fay Lane,
Aye.
Lourdes Perez,
Aye.
Valley White,
Aye.
Betty Davis,
Aye.
Mike Welsh.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, going on to section 6, information and study, superintendent's report. Dr. Siegel, please.
Sure, just a few things. I'm going to reserve some of my comments for the item on school opening that is coming up. Where is it? School up under I and under this section. So first of all, condolences to the Jack Rudd's family and sympathies. I want to reemphasize something that was quoted to me, which was that how much Jack was important to the operations of the school district. He set the table, laid in a lot of the procedures and policies or practices that we follow still today. And I will always remember Jack fondly as a mentor and somebody who helped me learn how to do attendance enrollment projections. I may have done, added my piece to it, but he set the foundation to that. And a lot of the spreadsheets and things that we use right now have their origins in something Jack set up, and his fingerprints are all over them. So I think this district was blessed to have him for many years and saddened by his passing.
He also was chairperson of the first computer use committee of teachers, in which I was one of the starting members in the 80s. So
yes, Mr. Rudd retired in 2002, in June 30th of 2002. It's been many years, and I'm glad he had years to go ride horses in Oregon and enjoy himself after he retired. So we have reopened the schools, and just to let you know, I've gone to schools. I have not walked in classrooms like I normally would have for a couple of reasons. One is COVID. Students aren't there. My plan right now is as I'm going in August to meet with principals, and I'll meet with every principal this month, is to just check in, see how things are going, check out the daycare, and then let them get back to what they're doing. As we move into September and October, I plan to actually, I'd say, walk with quotations around it, classrooms by attending Zoom links or going on Zoom links and popping into classrooms with principals and just to see what's going on. So I get a feel for what the instruction is like on that. I don't feel it'd be fair to teachers to do that too early. They still need to get used to this and get their feet under them. So I'm purposely not. I know principals are popping in on the Zoom meetings, so teachers are getting used to seeing that. That's not to say that some teachers may see me behind a student in the daycare as I hover over them and look at their screen. I can sometimes see myself on the screen. I'm like, oh my gosh, the teacher sees me. But I really want to give them time to get used to this as much as possible. And then finally, before I end this part of it, we are not only dealing with COVID these days, we're dealing with smoke. And you have to not be paying any attention and not realize there's a ton of fires going on. We're lucky that the fires aren't a direct threat to us. I don't know how long the smoke is going to last, but we are taking proper precautions. We've been canceling outdoor things. We've been having our staff who need to be outdoors have N95 masks to the extent that we can. We have a limited supply of those N95s, but we are distributing them for the cafeteria workers, custodians who need to be outside for more than just a brief amount of time. And my hope is that maybe some wind comes in and blows the smoke out, but without making the fires worse. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Scott. So moving on to B, the board report. We get to hear from our student reps. Excited to hear from Ceres High School first, which would be Victoria Rodriguez Ochoa.
So yes, I am from Ceres High School, and I know it's very difficult times right now, and we're trying to normalize things that we would usually do if we were in school. So one of our main events is homecoming, is what we're trying to focus on right now to give students a sense of normality. And this past week, the leadership class has been working on creating spirit days that will be available. Well, they will have to be virtual, but we don't want it to just place then, like, how do you explain it? Like, just say, oh, it's virtual. We want to make the students feel as if they were in school in a sense. So we typically have floats that go around in our homecoming game, and that is not possible this year. So we brought up the idea of creating murals on the Whitmore Avenue gate we have in our school. So each class, the freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, will have a section of the gate that they will decorate to go along with their spirit day, which we thought would also not only include our school and our students, but also the community, since Whitmore is a very busy street and a lot of past alumni will pass by there and see that Ceres High School is still doing these events. We also have a virtual football game we want to create, which is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the video game Madden. So it's a football game, and Davis High in Modesto challenged us to this football game, and we're still trying to figure out the details, but we're still planning on making that work. And so far, that's all we have.
Great, thank you very much, Victoria. Next, we'll have Central Valley, Virginia Moore, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Virginia Moore, just to reintroduce myself. Just like Ceres High, we're all trying to grapple with the new situation that we've been put into. With that being said, we've also been trying to normalize the students' experience at school, especially pertaining to the freshman class. We wanted to welcome them in the best way that we could, given our circumstance. So the first event that we have done this year was freshman orientation over Zoom. So we had about 65 student leaders and about 700 or like 600 freshmen on Zoom. It was really crowded and it was a little bit chaotic. We actually split them up into two groups. So it's like 300 in one and then 300 in the other. It was a little bit crazy, but it was a fun time overall. The student leaders had groups of about 10 freshmen, and they introduced themselves. They played icebreakers and other games. And most importantly, they shared contacts with one another, like through phone number or social media. So that way the student leaders could keep in contact with the freshmen and just try to guide them as best as they could or behave as a mentor to them. And then Dr. Siegel expressed that he would like us to talk about our feelings about our distance learning. So I've talked to a few students about distance learning, and I've gathered that they have mixed emotions about it. Of course, they're sad that we're not going back to school, but I heard in volumes that they're grateful for the teachers' effort as well as the district's effort to make things, I guess, as normal as they can be, giving us a structured school day with, instruction is important to us. There are some improvements that are needed on the technical side, but overall, I think students are appreciative of your efforts. And one more thing that we did this year was teachers are beginning to call students to school during the lunch period to distribute materials to kids. Our first one was for the AP Government and Politics class. They dropped off, or the teachers handed out packets and things, and I assume that other teachers will follow suit. And that's all. Thank you.
Great. Good job, ladies. Okay, now it's time for any other board members wish to have anything they'd like to say. You're welcome to do so now.
I want to, sorry.
No, it's fine.
I want to commend the district and everyone involved in us. And I say us because, you know, I have 2 kids in the district, and it's pretty fun. It's been a very positive experience so far. With the younger one, we were kind of having some struggles with, and he's really enjoying his classes. He likes his teacher. He's very connected. And so from a in-home experience, I'd like it. And, you know, I mean, being part of this to the planning process and how can we make this better and whatnot. I know that we're giving it our best as a district. And then at home, I'm seeing the positive outcome. So congratulations to staff, you know, to everyone involved. You can see me. And yeah, I just want to, you know, pass on that my, you know, both of my kids are liking it, but my younger one especially, and it hits right at home. Thank you, everyone.
I want to echo that too. I was going to say too, I think the district has done a wonderful job in preparing everyone and including as many people as possible, the classified, the teachers, everyone in this process to make a good situation out of a bad situation. And hopefully we can get back in the classroom soon. And then also I wanted to add that in addition to Jack Rudd, there was also the loss of John Avila, who had been in the curriculum department for many, many years with Virginia and Maryland and that. So a few of us remember.
I want to say thank you, and I appreciate all the time and effort that all of the staff have taken over the summer in their quote off time, as if there ever is such a thing. The world thinks there is, but we know better. It's just been tremendous. I know it's taken the energy and the emotional toll on all of them, all of you involved. Thank you.
I would just like to add that I had the opportunity to use some of the resources that our teachers were allotted with professional development, and actually got to implement that today in a 2nd grade class over Google Meet. And you know, I was able to use a lot of the trainings to help me out today in the district that I'm at. And I know that I can't imagine our teachers aren't thankful for that. It was really well done. And you know, it's just one more example of our, you know, district going above and beyond for our students and our teachers. And you know, it's hard to recognize that, you know, from the inside, but you can really see it from the outside, you know, when you can compare it to different districts. And you know, I was thankful I got to look over and help out, you know, with the professional development and use that as a, you know, a tool and some support for myself today. And so doing 2nd grade is man, I feel for you elementary school teachers. That's a different environment than high school. But thank you.
And that's true, because when I hear from friends of mine from other districts, we're way ahead of the game.
Yep.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I've been pushing buttons and I've lost the screen, so I'm gonna need to. I was the faces weren't moving, so I was trying to work while you guys were talking, and I'm not sure where I'm at right now, but I need help. So we can move on. In the meantime, maybe the technology can help get me a picture back. So we'll go on to C, Association Report, and we'll have CSEA report first.
Hello. Everything's going good, considering the circumstances. There's been a couple concerns. I've been working with Dr. Viss on them. Now we got this beautiful air quality. Thanks the district for getting the N95 mask out to everyone that needs them. And I'd also like to offer my condolences to the Rudd family. I worked closely with Jack back in the mid-90s on the Westport treatment plant. And we have a metal storage tank out there that holds the water for the school.
We're still working on
it. What's that?
We're still working on that problem out there, aren't we?
Yeah, it's better now.
I think I know.
There was a storage tank for the water out there, and it needed to be cleaned out. And the access hole was so small that Jack was the only one was able to fit in there, and he climbed in there and cleaned that tank out. So Jack was a good man.
I remember hearing that story many years ago, and
yeah,
look, I don't know how he did it. I'd have gone crazy being stuck in that.
Yeah, he was in there for about an hour doing it, sweating and hot and miserable. So that's all I have.
Great, thanks, Brent. So next we'll have CUPA, Jody, please.
Hi, good evening. First of all, Virginia, I need to give a shout out and say you are correct. Virginia was one of my former students, and you are right that some of the ethnic diversity and stuff needs to be taught in elementary school. I believe it needs to happen before kids get to junior high and high school. And so hopefully we'll be adding some of those things to our curriculum in the near future. It's been a very bumpy start. I think as a teacher, when you follow things on social media and you see things about, teachers only working this amount, this has been literally the hardest 2 weeks for many teachers I know, and the amount of time that we're putting in to make connections with kids that aren't showing up or that are, and parents. And it's really a staggering fact that I teach 10-year-olds, and I could tell you I have 5 or 6 kids who are literally home alone all day. And one is a family that has like a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old, and they're babysitting a little one because mom's at work. And so I think we're trying to find the balance between providing curriculum, providing safety for some of these kids. And so it's definitely been a huge undertaking, and I don't think I've ever been more tired, and most teachers will tell you the same thing. I definitely appreciate the reaching out with the grading policy that we're talking about, and the new attendance procedure that's coming out next week, and just kind of giving us a heads up on some of those things as those changes occur. We feel like there's something new every day. I do know that many teachers appreciate the fact that they've been allowed to bring their own children to their classroom. I know that's made things a lot easier just for their peace of mind on some things. However, I do know that there are still some teachers out there who are struggling with the daycare issue, and I'm hoping that possibly some of those waivers can be extended. It's just a really difficult time for some people and just don't feel comfortable taking their kids to daycare. And I definitely appreciate the fact that the district is working with them one-on-one to try to figure out what's best for them. And I know I'm speaking from all teachers, we can't wait to get back to a normal day and a normal schedule. And I'm not even sure what that looks like at this point. I can't even imagine the transition and how that's going to occur. But I'm confident that as that happens, the district will continue to communicate with us so we can do what's best for teachers. Thank you.
My daughter, who is in her 20th year of teaching, it says like it's putting the amount of time and energy as if it was her first year of teaching.
Yeah,
so many.
Sorry, Mike, but your technology issues are the things we deal with all day long, and we're telling kids like, okay, no, top left, no, top left, no, the green arrow on the bottom is we're trying to guide them. No, bottom, and it's a constant. It's a struggle to try to figure out and explain things when you don't realize how much you take for granted what you can do when they're with you versus when they're not. It's a huge difference.
In terms of supports for teachers, are we at any point conducting an assessment or some sort of information gathering from teachers around that?
Like a survey?
A survey or whatever.
We haven't gotten there yet, but we certainly, we could do whatever we need to do.
Well, it's stakeholders. We talked about
That's
that
true.
coming up.
Yes.
Do you want to
Sure. We're at stakeholders meeting next week. We're planning on asking that question. We're asking them, we haven't told them this yet, but we're going to ask them to tell us, start with going around the room, one thing that's going really well, that you're happy about, that you appreciate. Then around the room a second time with one thing that you wish was better, you're concerned about, you're troubled by, whatever it might be. And then, so we don't leave on that note, one more time around the room with one thing that you're happy about, a different thing than the first time, but you're happy about, pleasantly surprised by, whatever it might be. So you put two good things surrounding feedback.
That's great.
That's harder to take. And then
I do remember attending a CSBA session where teachers spoke of the value of their voice in those type of settings. So I appreciate that.
that's an informal way of doing it. We could certainly consider doing something more formal.
Just hire the techs, get those techs so they're on the campus so they can help the teachers.
It will be out there very quickly.
Good. Let me know. I'll be happy for that. That would be my happy time or happy event.
Okay, guys, moving on to D, employee attendance. Dr. Wickham, please.
Okay, so this is an annual report that is from a board policy that I am required to present to the board every year. I'll go through it pretty quickly in the sense that most of it's graphs. You can, I do have hard copies for tonight, but we will have it available following this meeting tonight. The attendance is a little skewed, as you can imagine, based on, hang on a moment here. Not sure where I should be pointing it to, but I have tech help right here, which is awesome.
I could use a couple over here too.
Did you get it figured out, Mike?
Yeah, we're back on. Thank you, guys.
So while he's getting did it just?
You got it now.
Is it working?
He's gonna have
Yes.
to.
I have to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just give you a signal like that. You can see that we're a very large employer. We are the largest employer in the city of Ceres. And this is our breakdown with 2,891 employees for Ceres Unified. So the certificated and classified numbers include substitutes. That's not how many full-time employees we have in each of those categories. Right now we have about 730 certificated teachers and approximately 900 classified staff that are actually our employees. The remaining are substitutes, which we utilize frequently. So moving on to the next slide is our classified absenteeism. And you're going to notice a substantial difference from last year to this year. And obviously the reason for that is because attendance from March on was actually very good. So people were working remotely, and it was a completely different environment that we were in. Even things like maternity leaves and things didn't happen as they normally would have, because we weren't in the distance learning accountability era that we are right now. And so people were working from home and therefore not taking sick days. The same with the certificated. You can especially see some of our highest months of absenteeism. One of them is in May. Teachers just get really burnt out in May. They get sick in May. They're just worn out. And so typically there's a lot of absences then. The previous year in 18-19, there were 1,651 total. Last year, as an example, there were 266. So the numbers are very skewed based on the situation that we were in, but you can see the attendance was pretty phenomenal. Total workman's comp injuries, again, our numbers greatly improved because we didn't really have too many workman's comp injuries from home. So that was really nice. There was some perks or some benefits of that. So, this will certainly help our numbers going forward when we look at fees and things like that we have to pay for workman's comp, that they really were very minimal in May and June, April, May, and June, actually. Same with our doctor-treated injuries. We didn't have too many that had to go seek medical help. It's not that we didn't have any workman's comp injuries from home. We did. Believe it or not, we did have a few people that injured themselves and they were on work time. And so we had to be accountable for that. So we did have a few circumstances, but not very many. So our daily day of the week absenteeism analysis, and I do have last year's as well, just so if you wanted me to compare numbers, I could do that for you. Friday, this was for the whole year, continued to be a pretty high day of absenteeism. And that goes for across the board for all employees. This year for the 1920 school year, it was 6.6%. Last year was 7.4%. So we did improve a bit on those Friday absences. Moving on, these numbers are the regular data that for the CUSD certificated staff. So in 2018-19, we had 5.4% of teachers were out on any given day. This year it was 4.8%. Now those couple of months, again, really helped to improve our numbers. I'd love to be able to see that continue as, you know, in the 2021 school year. The average teacher misses 5.5 days per year. And you can see that the national average is 11. So we are substantially better. Last year, however, we were at 7.8. So even though last year was a normal year, if we look at our normal year, we still are substantially better than the national average with our absenteeism rate. And I'm going to tell you kind of last year to this year. Last year, 20% of our teachers were absent 3 or fewer days. This year, 37% of our teachers were absent 3 or fewer days. Now, it could be we had a healthier year. It could be due to COVID. It could be due to many factors. I love that percentage rate, though. 37% of our teachers were missed less than 3 days of work. That's pretty incredible. 13% of teachers missed more than 10 days of school. Most of those are due to extended illness situations that come about, maternity leaves, baby bonding things, situations. Last year, we had 11 teachers missed more than 25% of the school year. And this year, we had 8 teachers missed more than 25% of the school year. So those numbers look really, really good, especially when we compare it to the previous year. So just some interesting facts. Our top 3 days of classified absences, we see that they hit the Friday lotto there. Friday, November 1st, Friday, November 8th, and Friday, December 13th were the highest classified absenteeism days. You can see that I put if there was like before a holiday or a professional development day. The top 3 certificated absences were, again, Friday, November 1st was a big absenteeism day, Friday, November 8th as well. And then Wednesday, November 27th was a large absenteeism day for certificated staff. Those are days, especially like on November 27th is a day that we run short subs, that we have a really difficult time. We know it ahead of time. We try to book them ahead of time because there'll be people absent that day.
In a normal year.
In
a normal year, the May and March and May dates would snuck in.
They would have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then in a normal year, we would have had the, especially the Friday before Memorial Day on that Friday. I mean, we're like driving over town. Do you want a sub? Do you want a sub? I mean, it's pretty extreme, the sub shortages we have on those days. And those teachers that are able to come to school on those days are able to, they help us, they divide up kids. If we really can't find someone, we have administrators teaching, we make it work, but those are typically tough, difficult days. So Jonathan, if you could go ahead and just put all of the verbiage in, that would be great. Thank you. We do have some attendance incentives that are negotiated and in both of the contracts. So for a certificated employee who uses 3 or fewer days, they receive a $100 cash incentive. So this year, 37%, if you can remember, of our teachers will be receiving that $100 incentive. It usually hits paychecks in about October. And then for a classified employee that uses 5 or fewer sick days are awarded an additional vacation day to be used in the following school year. Our 3 top schools this year for the best employee attendance, and I like to give out prizes and things when we do our management meetings, and we weren't able to do that this year, but hopefully I'll still be able to give something out eventually. We're Don Pedro Elementary, Heidel Elementary, and May Hensley Elementary School. And all of those sites had fewer than 5, an average of 5 absentee days for all of their employees collectively. So that is my employee attendance presentation. Are there any questions tonight?
I guess the best one you ever did.
Thanks.
Good job.
It's great to see improvements, but at the same time, we also want people to do self-care. So just also motivating people to take care of themselves if needed.
And especially right now, I don't want people coming to work sick.
We don't want people coming to work
No.
sick.
Mm-mm.
We also need to recognize that last year's attendance is not comparable really to prior years because of the April and May situation.
It's its own.
It's by itself. It doesn't make sense to really compare and say apples to apples. It's apples to oranges.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you, Denise. Moving on to item E, learning continuity and attendance plan. Dr. Amy Peterman, please.
Good evening. So Mr. Pangrazio and I are working together on the learning continuity and attendance plan and wanted to give you a little bit of background information tonight. You'll be hearing more about this at a couple of our September meetings, including one special board meeting. And I'll talk about the timeline here in just a second. Back in June, Senate Bill 98 was passed, and that did several things. It established that the LCAP and the annual update to the LCAP would not be required for the 2021 school year. And it also suspended the release of the California school dashboard for December. So we will not be getting dashboard results this December. In addition, the learning continuity and attendance plan requirements were developed. So every district in California will be developing a plan, and essentially it is a detailed account of what school districts will do to help combat the challenges from the spring and deal with the unique challenges of this school year. So we've attached the template to this agenda item for you to look at, but when we come back for our special board meeting in September, there will be a draft of the plan for the school district as well as our 2 Whitmore charter schools, and we will have a public hearing at that time and collect comments from the community and stakeholders, and then bring that back to the regularly scheduled board meeting the following week. Up to this point, and I think Mr. Pangrazio may jump in here and talk to you about the process he's using for developing the plan, but I did want to note that a requirement in the plan is to seek input from stakeholders. We have done that. We spent the last part of July and the first part of August meeting with our various stakeholder groups. So we convened our 2 parent groups. It's our parent advisory as well as our DAC-DLAC committees to gather their input. We met with our certificated and classified stakeholder employee groups. And then the 2 student groups that we met with, that Dr. Siegel and I met with, he shared that he asked 2 questions. I actually asked a 3rd question, and that was talk to me about your distance learning experience in the spring and how we could make it better for you. So we were able to use that input from our students as well to develop the plan. And Mr. Pangrazio is taking it from here and finalizing that, and we'll be getting it translated and everything that's needed for September 10th. Mr. Pangrazio, you want to jump in? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Had a quick question before you go ahead, Mr. Pangrazio, if I may. Wanted to ask, how are districts held accountable to that. And I know we are very unique in really putting out the information and meeting with stakeholder groups and attempting to collect and involve them, but that's not the case for all districts. So are there any accountability measures in place?
There are some. There is still a great emphasis on local control. So the plan, while the plan has a template and it has requirements that need to go in it, it really is meant to be the story of how a district is addressing their unique needs, because every district has specific situations. Every district does have to submit their plan to the County Office of Education. The county has the opportunity to give feedback to the district, and then the district would make any changes as a result of that feedback from the county. So it's really county office oversight rather than at the state level.
I'm thinking part of your question is for engaging stakeholders.
Mhm.
There's a portion of the plan that has to address that you put down, I believe, what you've done. Is that correct?
What we've done up to that
Yes.
point, yes. And then, of course, the public hearing gives the opportunity for the public as a whole to give input.
Yeah, I'll just add to in response to that question, that yes, there is an entire lengthy section just where we describe what the stakeholder engagement process was, and then also specifically what input and feedback we got from those meetings that added to or refined the actions in the plan in the respective sections of the plan. So they do ask for specific information about that as well. And then I would just add, that was, I think, a very good overview, but I would just add that we do add, if there's funding sources, any type of funding source that connects to any of the actions that we've taken, which of course there is, whether it's the federal stimulus dollars or LCAP or other sources of funding, then I include that as well, so you can see the funding sources there. And then there are multiple sections, including stakeholder engagement, and as you can see from the attachment, in-person instruction and what in-person instruction would look like either in a hybrid model or when students come back in person. So some of the plan is actually forward-looking in a sense of how have you planned for the things that are yet to come in a sense. And then also the full description of our distance learning program that we're currently in, how you're addressing pupil learning loss, mental health services, child nutrition, and then of course the increased and improved services for at-risk subgroups. And so that's a whole section itself, but then also a thread throughout each section and how the school district is addressing that. So like, for instance, in the distance learning section, you have, our schedules for daily instruction for students, what we're doing for access and connectivity to wireless internet and devices, additional tech support at sites, distance learning, professional development, all those pieces. It's actually quite an interesting experience going back and documenting all of the things that have happened and what we've done from the spring until now. To respond to this moving target and this very challenging situation. There a lot of efforts have been made by all to try to do everything we can to make this a productive year for our students and for all of our stakeholders.
In reading the template, there's, yes, it has a little bit, but I think, okay, that's going to take a booklet to answer just that one section. So I thought, okay, we're chopping down a few trees. It asks for great detail.
Yeah, I mean, when you say exactly, and when you say, even when you get to the action details and you say things like community liaisons are going to support our foster and youth and youth experiencing homelessness. So that's what's written in that sentence, but there's volumes of, what's the meaning of that and what's the value of what's truly happening. You can't, in a plan like this, you can't possibly get to the depth of what our employees are doing, the good things that they're doing for students and families. And so there is sort of you're always shortchanging that, to be frank, but in the writing of it, you're doing the best you can to express what our district is doing. And of course, very importantly, what information and feedback we've gotten from all stakeholders to inform the plan.
I'm surprised you could sleep. All that going through your heads. I just looked at it, read through it twice, and the first time I thought, okay, that's enough. I've written enough of those. It's their turn. Young ones' turn. So thank you. And good luck.
Thank you. Any questions?
No questions from anyone? Okay, moving to item F, impact of state budget. Mr. Pangrazio, please.
Thank you, sir. So the 45-day letter attached, it outlines this, and we, as we always do this letter annually, any significant changes between the proposed and enacted state budgets. And this year, the differences were pretty significant. So as you can see on the attachment, the main three differences were, of course, the seems like a long time ago, but the May revision had a negative 7.92 COLA. And then the enacted budget eliminated that, resulting in a zero COLA for 2020-21. So that happened. And then there's an increase of funding in special education. And then also, of course, the one-time federal stimulus money of over $18 million, which goes back to, it's tied to the restrictions and also very tight timelines to spend those dollars to support our efforts that, again, relate directly back to that plan that we just discussed. And so those are the three major changes. And then those new realities, those changes will be reflected and adjusted at the first budget revision. Any questions on that yet? I'm going to go over briefly a couple of slides to hit a couple points, and then that will be all. But are there any questions at that point regarding the letter? Okay, so I am going to share my screen. Okay, heads up for you guys, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you. So just really briefly, I wanted you to have these slides for backup as well if you want to go deeper into it. But obviously, the biggest change was Newsom was talking about the big cuts, and then essentially the legislators said, we don't want the cuts, we want deferrals to balance the budget. That's ultimately what happened. We have a big drawdown of the rainy day fund, which was 7.8 billion, and that's the max that can be drawn down in any 1 year. So that was an important move. We also have the deferrals that are planned. Now those deferrals are large. You'll see an image of it in a couple of slides. Those deferrals could be reduced if there is additional federal funds to states, but that hasn't occurred yet. So that's a big piece of the puzzle. As of now, those deferrals are still in place. And as I said, I'll give you a visual on that in a second. Obviously, in the background, there's a lot of risk right now in terms of the budget and obviously, and what that could mean. And so there's multiple factors here that are there on the screen. I think also a background, some background context to this is in Prop 98, the minimum guarantee has reduced nearly 10% in 3 years, which is significant. And many LEAs right now, including us, are not experiencing significant cuts at all in this year, 2020, 2021, due mainly to the withdrawal of those funds from the rainy day pot, and then also the deferrals that are planned. And so those are the main reasons why we're not looking at cuts right now at this point in this year. And then this just gives that background of what happened between January and the enacted budget, as I discussed before, so you can look across to see where we landed at the 0% zero funding change there, and an unfunded COLA. So the statutory COLA is 2.31, but it's not funded, so it's a 0% COLA and also $0 one-time discretionary funds. And then just we've talked about deferrals, but essentially deferrals allow the state to record a budget cut in 1 year and move the expense to the next year. That's the bottom line of what they're doing. And you'll, again, in a couple slides, you'll see one more visual on this. There is some good news in that there's help with buy downs of the STRS and PERS employer contribution rates that you can see at the bottom what the rate was going to be and what it is now. And so that's helpful this year. And they decided to make that a buy down move. Also, we just discussed categorical programs. There was going to be cuts, and so we went from significant cuts to no cuts. So that was great. And then you have, sort of a little bit of a breakdown here of the stimulus funds. And again, those are the vast majority of that is spent on the learning loss mitigation plans, and then also the costs for reopening schools in the various models of what that can look like.
Real quick, if you don't mind.
Question?
Yeah, not a question, just a comment. On the learning loss funds, they're very, very large, and they're mostly federal dollars, not entirely, but mostly federal dollars. And the bulk of it, like well over 80% of it, expires on December. The law is currently written on December 30th of 2020. That is a huge problem that Congress has acknowledged they need to fix, but has yet to fix and may not, in fact, fix. If that happens, there's a chance that we may lose some of that funding because it's more money than I believe we can spend legitimately by the rules between now and December 30th. We're working on that. We have a in service tomorrow about it, and we'll be trying to develop plans that get the money spent. My biggest hope is that the federal government extends the timeline for at least 6 more months, if not longer. I just want you aware of that in case it comes to pass that we give back some millions of dollars because we couldn't spend it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you, sir. And just, okay. You've heard this, but there's some flexibilities that LEAs were asking for that did not happen in the budget, and we'll see what those look like going forward. But all these flexibilities that were lobbied for did not happen. And we'll see what that looks like going forward. And then, like I said, the big question is additional federal funding, and will that come? And will the deferrals be reduced? And obviously that additional stimulus will be important here going forward. And the deferrals, just a visual on the deferrals, ultimately the deferral of the cash that we would receive over potentially multiple months. And it's a large amount of money over time. Dr. Siegel, do you want to give more on that, or?
Sure, just really fast. Even if Congress passes legislation to give aid to state and local governments, which will cause a reduction in those deferrals, there will still be deferrals. And a deferral, to remind you, is not a budget cut. It's basically, you can still budget the money, but we're just not going to pay it to you this year. We'll pay it to you next year. So you have to figure out how to float the loan, so to speak, or float the cash. If the feds come through, there will be significantly fewer deferrals and more manageable. If they do not come through, the initial preliminary indication for this district was a $25 million cash flow issue in June. Now, that may not be correct, and there may be ways that may end up being less than that. But for right now, we're looking at $25 million cash flow issue. Fortunately, there are a number of avenues we have to deal with that. One of them being interfund borrowing. If we have some funds that have some money, we can borrow that money into the general fund. The treasurer of Stanislaus County has indicated a willingness to loan fund balance that they have, and they have substantial fund balance, billions of dollars actually, that school districts may be able to tap into. And then there's a tax revenue anticipation note option. And the tax revenue anticipation note is short-term borrowing that school districts can do. There will be the option of us going out on our own. There's also talk of a statewide tax revenue anticipation note where we would just go in and be part of that. All of those different forms, except for interfund borrowing, and even interfund borrowing, technically you pay the interest back to the fund you borrowed from, involve borrowing costs, which is unfortunate. It's something it's easier to deal with, though, than a budget cut. So I want you to be aware that we have contingency plans should we need to deal with that cash issue. We haven't gotten into the details yet because there's still hope right now that Congress will do something prior to the end of October, or end of September.
Thank you, sir. And then just lastly here, it's still possible that there could be a fall revision and a special legislative session, but there's no commitment to do that now. So technically the next official budget checkpoint is January 2021. So, I mean, we'll keep you updated, of course, as we go and make the proper adjustments for the first revision. Any questions for me?
It's a question than it could have been.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. So item G, which is the 2020 Certificate of Participation Refunding Bond. And Fangrazio, please.
Yes, sir. So we have a chance here in a low interest rate environment to refinance past certificates of participation to use to buy land for Central Valley High School and pay for 5 elementary school multi-purpose room. The estimated savings is over $845,000 over the life of the lease payments, which go out to 2042. So this refi, it doesn't change the maturity date. It still ends in 2042, so it doesn't stretch out the payments at all. We make payments, lease payments through a general fund obligation, and we've paid for that through redevelopment pass-through over the years. So this absolutely saves those dollars over that period of time. Bottom line is it's a low interest rate environment, makes sense to do it. And so the complete financing timeline is there, attached, and then we would be bringing this to the September 17th board meeting for action. Any questions for me?
You said it's a low interest. Approximately what kind of interest rate are we talking about?
I believe it's on the.
It is. I believe I saw a 6%.
Wow.
Well, they say that it equates to 6.9% in value savings related to the bonds refunded.
That's the percent savings.
That's the savings, correct?
The interest rate. The interest rate was much lower than that.
It's going to be a lot lower, yeah. I
cannot-
don't see it. I don't see it in the report, the actual percentage.
It's just a question, so that's not a big deal. I was just kind of curious.
No, we'll have that for you at the next meeting. Just one note for the board members, especially the new board members. There is something called a financing corporation for the district, which is a body that does borrowing. That, by the way, the law is written, you have to have. You are all the board of that financing corporation. I believe the financing corporation will have to have a meeting on September 17th. And you're familiar with that drill, those who've been on, where we adjourn the board meeting, open up the financing corp meeting, everybody stays in the room because it's the same board, and you take action and do what needs to be done. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be mistaken, it will involve financing corp making an appearance, which is all of you.
All right. Any other questions of Dan? Hearing none, we'll go to item H, which is a level 2 developer fee update. Dan, again, please.
Yes, sir. So the level 2 developer fees are justified, and we've charged them in the previous year and previous years. If capacity is low enough in the district compared to the students that are generated from new residential construction. So you only charge level 2 if it is more than the level 1 fee, which we're going to be changing to, upon your approval, $4.08. So this report shows that, and the study showed that our student generation rate in 2020 is very low for the 9 through 12 grouping, which is the only grouping they can use at this time. And so the actual fee that we would charge would be less than the level 1 fee. Therefore, we change the level 1 fee.
So there will be a level 2 fee at this time.
Say that again.
We'll be using level 1 fees come October, whatever that date was, level 1.
That is correct.
All right. Any other questions of Dan? We'll go to I, school opening and COVID-19 update. Dr. Siegel, please.
So I have a few topics, and then if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them or have other staff answer them as well. And I'll try to be efficient here with time. One of the questions many of you are interested in is how many students are enrolled in the daycare that we have for staff. And I want to emphasize that the reason we're doing this daycare for staff is because we need our teachers to be focused on our students. So there are 471 children enrolled in that, school age all the way through 8th grade, I believe, TK through 8th grade. The actual attending, though, is less than that. Not every kid shows up every day for a variety of reasons. There's different daycare situations or at homes. Some people have it as a safety net in case they need it, so they've enrolled their students even though they're not using it. It's between about 250 and 300 students or children a day showing up for that. It is not the same as the education. It is not being run by credentialed teachers. It is a daycare situation, and I've had some public comment, one of the public comments talked about that. It's very different to have 30 children on a campus spaced out in a cafeteria or in classrooms widely distributed, like 10, no more than 10 students, than to have 600 students on an elementary campus. It's not the same thing. It's comparing. So if you hear the question, why are you not opening for all students when you open this daycare? It's because it's not the same thing. And we've been specifically prohibited from having instruction, bringing kids back for instruction. They can attend their Zoom calls, but the teacher, and I've watched students attending Zoom calls from multiple districts in our cafeterias. The teacher is not there. The teacher's in the Zoom somewhere else. It's not the same thing. So that's that one. So earlier was mentioned, I think Jody mentioned the attendance and minutes tracking plan. The state laid out some pretty strict requirements on what we have to do. I want to just briefly tell you about it so that you're aware, because attendance taking is different right now. And there are different requirements. First of all, we are required to make sure that we have a minimum day, instructional day, which for many grade levels is 240. For some lower grade levels is less than that, but I'll just use 240. That means that, for example, a 6th grade teacher would need to document that between the Zoom call that I have for all students and the time value of the assignments I'm giving is a total of 240 minutes a day, 4 hours a day of instruction. It doesn't have to be 4 hours of Zoom. I can say, I've asked the students to read these chapters in a book, to do these math problems, to watch this video, and here's the time value of all of that, plus the Zoom call equals 240 or more. At high school and junior high, that creates a little bit more of a challenge in terms of that 240 minutes is spread out over multiple teachers. So each teacher has to provide a certain number of minutes to ensure that every kid gets that minimum. If we don't get the minimum, our funding will be withheld. So we're keeping very careful records so that we don't end up in an audit situation a year from now where the auditor says, hey, you didn't make it, so here's how much money you owe the state back. We need to be able to prove, and we're keeping those records to do that. Attendance is also complex. A student can be marked present, and we do it a week at a time in retrospect by either participating in a Zoom call, having interaction live with the teacher, by emailing the teacher, having some different type of communication with the teacher, by the parent contacting the teacher on that day, or by completing assignments. Now, the trick with completing assignments is you're never quite sure what day the student did the work, so the teacher's allowed to use their best judgment to put what day they think that was. And certainly if a student did everything, they would be present all the time, but they don't have to do everything to be present all the time, because if you start and don't finish a number of assignments, you could be present every day. Attendance is not the same as grades. So your grade in that situation where I hardly do anything might be bad, but I might have done enough to demonstrate to the teacher that I was somewhat at least there for a few minutes of every day. So all of that is being put into place by the end of by August 31st, we'll be doing that, because there's a grace period that we're not doing it properly right now, but there's a grace period, so it's okay, but the grace period is over on September 1st. So our plan is the week of August 31st to be completely live with this new attendance and instructional minute tracking system. We do not want to end up losing ADA or not losing the ADA, it'd be apportionment because we didn't meet those instructional minutes. A quick report. So because we're doing it, the teacher finalizes the attendance. You can't finalize it during the week because you need to look at the assignments and such. So the teachers are finalizing it the next week, looking back. So I don't have information for the current week. What I do have for the first week is this information. So this is only week one. It's only 3 days. We had 211 students out of our 14,126 enrolled students miss all 3 days, be marked absent all 3 days. So 211 is the number of students who are not engaged, which for a district our size, it's about 1.5%, almost exactly 1.5%, is really, really phenomenal. I'm very happy with that. The 104 students missed 2 days and 251 missed 1 day. So when you do the math on that, it ends up with a 97.4% attendance rate for the first week, partial week. 2.2% of our students having missed 2 or 3 days that first week would need to be part of our re-engagement plan. A re-engagement plan kicks in when a student misses 60% or more of the instruction. Is that correct? 60% or more of the instruction.
That's correct.
During a week. So if I miss 2/3, 2 of the 3 days, that's more than 60%. So anybody who missed 2 or 3 days is in need of being re-engaged and reached out to. We're reaching out to even the 1 day misses to make sure, but if somebody's absent occasionally, that's not a big deal. It's when you have multiple absences and a lot of lost learning that we need to immediately intervene. I talked to a few of you about something that we thought we had, you guys through CSBA may have been told is about to come out, and we were very excited about it, which is a small group guidance on small groups or a waiver for small group instruction where you could bring kids back in small groups. That was supposed to come out Monday or Tuesday. I was sure I was going to be able to send it to you to say, hey, this is good. We can start working on bringing small groups who are very needy students back onto campus. As of today on an AXA call, and I don't believe it's changed since then, as of 10 o'clock, it had not been released. I believe that the governor's office is dealing with other situations around the state right now because of lightning strikes and the fires and smoke. So for whatever reason, that guidance has not come out. When it comes out, we will review it and see how much it applies to us and what we need to do to make that happen if it's the right thing to do. And then finally, I want to talk for a bit. Actually, before I get to that, I should have started with this. I was extraordinarily thankful, and I sent an email out to this effect, but an email does not do justice to the level of it, of the efforts of every staff at every level, from cabinet through the district administration, site administration, staff, teachers, and classified staff. Everyone did a phenomenal job. And I really feel like the level of distance learning that students are experiencing this fall, or it's really summer still, but we'll call it fall. This fall is far, far better than what happened in the spring. I'm seeing, it's not the same thing. That's not to say it's what we want to do, but I really feel like we made some very nice lemonade out of some very bad lemons.
Oh yeah, I can attest to that.
Yeah, it's much better. Yeah, and we need to keep working on it and improving it. We don't know how long we're going to be in this configuration, especially at 712. Now at K6, and you're going to hear about this in the news tomorrow, the governor has already put out that there are waivers available for elementary schools to reopen should the number of infections over a certain way they measure it, and it's not the same as what you're seeing in the news each day. It's a different way of calculating it. Should that number drop below 200, then a district can apply for a waiver to reopen elementary schools. Stanislaus County Health Department announced today that 275 is the current number. And I was aware of that because I can see it on the website the state has, but they announced it's dropping at a rate that they believe within a week will be at or below 200. By the way, 100, below 100 is where you get off the watch list. And once you're off the watch list for 2 weeks, then they allow you to reopen. So you're going to hear a lot of stories about districts can reopen or put waivers in for reopening. It's imminent. I want us to be extremely cautious before we rush in to reopening without thinking very carefully about safety, about staff safety, about student safety, about the negative impact that reopening a classroom and then shutting it again would have. And this only applies to elementary schools. So there's a lot of meetings tomorrow. My whole day seems like it's going to be meetings tomorrow on what's going on with this. I want to get all of the information, see what other people in the county are doing, really contemplate about what's going on. We need to talk to our associations. We need to talk to our parents. The point I'm making is that I don't want to rush into it and then find out that we rushed and got burned the same way that the whole country did because of the rush to reopen last May, and the numbers then spiked. So I'll be giving you more information when I have more information. I expect that we'll be talking quite a lot about this at the September 17th board meeting. It's possible we may talk about it before then, or may have to have a special meeting or something. But I just would caution again, we have a system that's working right now, and I'm very reluctant to put our staff and students in a situation where we go forward and backwards. And I fear very much that districts could rush. There's a lot of pressure to reopen as fast as possible. We don't need to do it as fast as possible. We need to do it so that it works. And that may mean, and I don't want you to think this is the way we're going to do it, but it may mean bringing one grade level back for a day or two a week at first, just to see how it goes before we increase the number of days and before we increase the number of grade levels. It
Dr.
may mean
Siegel, when you speak of pressures, what are you?
the county board of supervisors, quite frankly,
Supervisors, yes. Terry Withrow.
an email, or not an email, a social media posting from one of the county board of supervisors, basically saying, yes, schools can open now.
Well, that's the result of the county having the number of infections we have, that early determination from our board of supervisors. It's also very concerning to have the number of deaths that we have in the county, and went from 100 to 200 in a matter of 13 days. So definitely I am concerned about reopening early, and would want to carefully analyze all the components,
Right,
all
and so
factors.
that's I want the board to be aware that that's very similar to my thinking in terms of I want to be cautious. I do want us to explore it. I want us to be open to the idea of opening, but it may be a slow build up over a number of weeks to months to get everybody back at the elementary level. Even if we get below 100 and get off the watch list for 14 days and clear to reopen, when the health director for the county talked to us, superintendents in this county earlier this summer, talked about even then not bringing everybody back all at once, doing it maybe not even for a full day at first 1 or 2 grade levels, kindergarten or first grade at first, just to get used to the idea, or having some grade levels rotate through 1 day a week and maybe partial classes. So there's a lot of possibilities. I'm just very reluctant. I want to make sure I'm not different than you all in terms of that thinking. That I want to make sure that when we reopen, we stay reopened. And that's important instead of rushing in. That may mean that we reopen later than other districts in the county, or more slowly than other districts. I want to get your feedback on that.
I'm just afraid that, I'm not afraid of it, but over the past 6 months that we've experienced as a district is that all the districts in Stanislaus County are supposed to be on the same page, and other districts go ahead and do whatever they want and leave every other district hanging. And so my advice is to do what's best for our district and series. And, you've done a great job so far. And so I'm just going to trust what your thoughts and your, thinking is on that. I don't want to be pressured by what other districts around us are doing or not doing. I think it's important that, we stay faithful to the Series Unified School District in this regard. That's my opinion on that.
You agree, Valley?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Each person, staff, family, community member is important to this board. We are not going to let into pressure for someone who wants to make it all open their business again and threaten our kids by making us open our schools when it's not safe for our staff and students. We have to be very, 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 very careful.
Mike?
Yes.
Just curious, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, I'm gonna reserve my thoughts on that. I obviously want to open, but I do agree that we need to be careful. We need to protect our employees and the children that could be, brought back to school. So as much as I'd like to see them there, I'm gonna, continue to monitor, individually and, see what happens with reality, see what reality brings us, and hopefully, in a short period of time, or if it takes a longer period of time, we have to do what's right for all concerned.
Okay, thank you. So what I'll do based on that feedback is I will continue on the Lourdes, I'm sorry.
Just wanted to add a quick comment, just in terms of pressure and outside pressure. We do have jurisdiction over our district.
We do.
And we have a responsibility to the people we serve, students, teachers, and all staff. So I feel very strongly about protecting that safety and echo Betty's sentiments.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just as a side note, as another example, San Diego County came off the watch list a few days ago. In San Diego County, only one district has reopened. Now, charter schools and private schools have put in waivers and are reopening as fast as they can, but the public school system there is saying, not yet, it's not time yet. I want to strike a balance of making plans and contemplating how we might do it safely and gradually and incrementally and safely at the same time. And that will involve conversations with our stakeholders, including our associations and our parents. So I appreciate it. That helps me tomorrow when I'm in phone calls with other superintendents. I know kind of where we stand. Unfortunately, ladies, junior high schools and high schools are not part of that conversation. And there's grave concern, just to re-emphasize something I've talked about before with the board, that in settings where we have students in multiple classrooms is different than in elementary school, where one student in elementary school gets sick, you have one classroom to worry about what happens. At a high school, it's every classroom that student attended, plus having then possibly infected other students, every student, those students affected, it's basically the whole school. So one student sick at a elementary school could lead to a closure of a classroom. One student sick at a high school could lead to a closure of a campus. It's a different ball of wax, unfortunately. Okay, that's all I have for reopening. I appreciate your.
Did you have any numbers on how many students we have enrolled? That was one of the numbers I asked, or did I just not hear it?
Yes, I said earlier, 14,126.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. I just didn't hear it, evidently.
So our enrollment other than kindergarten is very strong right now, and I was concerned that we would be losing a bunch of students based on the kindergarten numbers. There were two possibilities. One was that we're down maybe 80 kindergartners from where we thought we'd be, 80 to 100, not counting TK, is that people maybe left the area and that's why the kindergarten students aren't here. But if that was true, then all our other grade levels would also be down, and they're not. So what it is people are just thinking they don't need to bring their kindergartners to school right now.
That's not new. From the kindergarten teacher knowing it. Oh, September 1st. Oh, I guess you could go to school now.
Want to get them on distance learning, even though that seems like counterintuitive, it's really important that they do it.
Yes, I know.
Scott, can I ask another thing? Are we still working on the technology as far as families connecting to the internet?
Oh, absolutely. So I don't want you to mistake when I said that there's 211 students who've missed 3 days, and that's our disengaged students. We know that there are a number of our students, not a huge number, but the number of our students who are having very grave technology issues. There are numbers who are having some technology issues, and the best thing they can do, especially you mentioned earlier, the tech issues, is to contact the tech helpline that's available for students and for parents. Same thing is true for people who don't have internet connectivity. They're working very hard to get people internet connectivity, and maybe Mr. Pangrazio can add to that.
Yeah, I'll just add that we've obviously been concerned mostly about the biggest issues being in rural areas of Ceres. And although issues have occurred around the district, that still is really the concentration, I think, of the biggest concern. And so we've actually put together an individualized plan for Westport Elementary School, and then are looking to those kiddos as they feed into the junior high school as well. And just really going family by family and connecting any way we can to figure out what are the obstacles, what is the actual issue, because it can be unique to each and every family. And so we've got really a specialized now individual plan for that to go deeper and to work really hand in hand with the sites, and really family by family, and communicate with them and figure out what they need. This is probably new information for everybody, but we have just the last couple of days purchased with some of the federal CARES Act money, hotspots they're called basically military grade hotspots that are stronger than even what we have now and have the ability to connect to any wireless network that is floating out there in the air. And so that's one of the pieces of trying to just strengthen and expand the service out in rural areas that have dead spots. And so that's going to be going in the next couple of days once we've actually got them here. We're really looking at every possible solution we can put into play.
I'd like to ask our high school reps to make sure if they hear of any of their peers that are the families having problem, make sure they go to the administration, to their counselors. Well, just start at the school with whomever they're most comfortable contacting, because we want them to be getting the best available that we can provide.
We have a team working. So, Valerie, you're out in the Westport area. If you have families who are not connected, they need to contact.
They have been calling every day.
Yeah, good.
And still can't get on, or they get on for a little while and then get bumped off. If you're out in the Laird Park area, the trees, the river out there block everything.
Mm-hmm.
So they're having a very, very hard time connecting.
So hopefully those military grade hotspots will.
If they get them,
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate that. And I hope that was our bus, because I drove by a little faster. That was out there the first day of school, out down Grayson Road as a Wi-Fi.
Our buses are out in some of the country areas. Is that correct, Dan?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, and in some of these cases, we've had, if days are going by and they are not able to access, part of it, particularly at Westport, is working with the school site and saying we need to get instructional materials, even if it's hard copy, into those kids' hands while we're working on solving the problem. Because in some cases, there may be a couple of days that are going by and they're struggling, and they do not have access, and so we still have to meet those kiddos' needs. So that's part of the situation now, while we're trying to figure out the actual whatever connectivity solution we can come up with.
And some of the kids out there by Laird Park are in high school.
Yep.
They're having a very hard time and very concerned that they're going to be considered absent.
Yep. We're going to keep working on it.
I appreciate it.
Every single day, we've got teams of people that are trying to, it's kid by kid, family by family, trying to reach them is what it is.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
So girls, while you're here tonight, if you know of any, go to Mr. Penzea, go to Dan. Tell him who those people are. Everyone has to work on this.
Yeah, at Central Valley, the admin team has been doing a very good job of like sending out Google Forms or surveys to students to make sure that they have connectivity. Even before we went on into the shelter in place order in March, we were reminded daily to like fill out the forms that we were given to make sure that we have adequate Wi-Fi at home.
Good.
Don't hesitate to refer people to that tech line. And if it gets, you can always email me names too, and I'll just pass the names on. We have teams ready to go into.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you for that report. Moving on to J, Board Policy, May 2020 Policy Revisions, second reading. Dr. Siegel.
So you had this for a first reading at the end of June. It's here for a second reading. That was the May revisions. I'm sure a new one is coming any day now.
All right.
I'll be back on the action section at the next meeting.
So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to adjourn our meeting. We're going to adjourn to closed session.
So I need everybody who's not staying in closed session to leave the Zoom, and we're going to get them there. So we'll cut the live stream, and we're going to take a short break, I think.
Let's give 5 minutes, maybe.
Yes, let's give about 5. So 6:45, we'll try to come back.
Perfect. Yeah.
Sorry.
We've advertised it. Now, here's one of the catches. if you're having tech issues, you may not be getting. So one of it is that
Sorry.
only these 211 kids.
Thank
missed
you.
that. So that contains some of the kids with the worst hotspot issues or connectivity. And sites are contacting them. It's actually good numbers. It's just frustrating for those. If you're one of the 100 people who's still having trouble, it's frustrating.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Ladies, good night.
Well, that's.
Oh, okay.
You wouldn't imagine
Live.
Asian shrimp and cucumber together.
Oh, I've never had it together.
Never had it together.
We're streaming.
Oh, we're live? Okay, we're gonna reopen this meeting. And we're going to section 8, which is report out of closed session.
There's no reportable action to be reported out.
All right, thank you, Betty. And we'll move to adjournment. Thank you guys for a long evening. It was a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Betty, before you go out, look carefully. Right. Can you see?
Oh, you got my color. Oh, how pretty. Did you do them?
What's that?
Did you do it yourself or Kobe?
No, you know I went.
Okay. Thank you, Belly.
It's only like 3 miles from me.
Yes, I know. I'm 3 miles.
Good job.